What is up, party people in a place to be? So I've been playing around with the 3D capabilities in Clip Studio because I think the direction of this channel is a 2D slash 3D workflow, or maybe 3D for 2D artists, somewhere up in there. That seemed to be where I'm kind of falling, I guess, if I want to categorize something. But check this out. So these objects are things that I made, right? And so I am going to turn this into a tutorial right here, but I just want to show you this. I want to show you this at this stage. I don't want to have to present things, right? So right over here you have this sphere. Let me zoom in here a little bit. And so you have this sphere, and I have this texture that's wrapped around it. So if I turn it, you can see that it is this texture over here. I got this texture by going to my material, well, not materials, I'm sorry. I went by clicking onto this. I have a material folder. So I got some other materials in here that I just downloaded from like textures, I think textures.com or something like that. And so I get open, and all of a sudden I have this as a material. Now this looks very, this is a realistic texture, but you can do the same thing with materials. See if we can find something really interesting here. I just have it set on default. I lost all of my settings. Let's look at this chalk material. Let's see what this does. So now I have this chalk material wrapped around here, and the scaling ratio, you can scale it, probably scale it down a bit. But you can add different textures to the different models. I did the exact same thing with these towers that I created. So this tower has this texture. It's a brick texture that comes with Clip Studio Paint. And so I made these hexagonal, I guess octagonal towers using the primitive. These are both, all three of these, everything here is a primitive shape. So if I zoom out a little bit, I want to press different keys that just don't exist in Clip Studio. I want to press my Blender keys. I wanted to duplicate it. I made this little floor. I made this a primitive. One of the drawbacks before I get into the full-on tutorial is this. One of the drawbacks is that I could not join things together. I don't know how, at least. It could be in here somewhere, but I did not know how to join objects together. Maybe that might be a capability that's going to be in Clip Studio Paint too. But I actually saved this object right here. Let me zoom in here a bit and pull the camera up. So this is a texture. This has a texture to it. It's a texture that I made in Krita, ironically. And I applied it all the way around here. It's this weird brick, painted brick texture. And I was able to also save this. So I saved this and I just put it in imports, and it's a texture test. So when I bring it out, I can bring out this right here. It opens up a lot of capabilities, in my opinion. So, and in the primitives, I was able to save this floor. So I can just also pull these out. So you can save your primitives in here as well. So you see this is a primitive. I adjusted it, did it, and then I was able to save it in its adjusted form. So this opens up some really interesting possibilities in Clip Studio Paint, even as it stands now. You can see this is the sphere. These are just cubes that I put a texture on. And even with the textures, I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but you don't have to have the lines onto the textures either. So I'm going to go ahead. If you guys are interested in this, stick around. We're going to go into the 3D primitives in Clip Studio. One of the first things that I want to do is go over to where the primitives are located. If you go into your material folder, and if you don't have that, you should go under Window, and I think I always have mine on, so Where's it at? It should be over here. It's your material folder. It's where you keep all your materials. But I created this folder that has templates. I have to redo my own templates. And they're just these little stand-ins. And I want to use these also for the demonstrations. Or at least for this demonstration. So there's color patterns. Right over here it says 3D. If you click onto that menu, then now that import folder, that's another folder that I created. You just create a folder by going down at the bottom, and there's a folder icon with the plus button that is ubiquitous, obviously. So we're going to go to, it's the one underneath body type. It's where you find all your mannequins, and it's primitive. The first one that I want to look at, this says billboard, and when you bring the billboard in, then it gives you a billboard. And it's a flat image. This is pretty powerful stuff. But you can actually either customize this with your own texture. And actually, let's do this. I should be able to. So over here, we have the tool properties, and underneath the window, if you don't have that selected, click on tool properties, and this is tool property object right now. And so that's this window for all your 3D objects. And if you scroll down, if you bring in the billboard, this is the texture. This is the image that you can put on top of this. You can open something from a file, materials from the material library. So I can pick one of my peeps and say okay, and all of a sudden I got this character right here. Right? And if I turn this, he's always facing the camera, which is very handy. We also have a plane, which our plane we can also add a texture to our plane. I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm going to go to materials. I can choose this other peep here. And you can add an image to them. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So I got them placed in different ways. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to fix this the 3D view because I'm used to Blender, but this does have some nice stuff. And also, if you look, this is also casting a shadow, which is I didn't expect that. But let's go ahead and go over here. I want to see if let's look at the settings here that we have so far. Now, the other one is this is not pointing at the camera right now, but I do believe that you can fix that. But right now, let's take a look at this particular billboard. So billboard, we have the regular color. I can change the color. I'm not quite sure how much a color change it's going to be. Not much of a color change at all because I already have it with gray, so that's not going to change very much with this particular billboard character. I'm not going to export anything. You can have different materials in another folder. You saw that I kept opening up this folder, which is taking me to my texture folder. And right now this says the alpha is semi-transparent. Sometimes it'll come in, it'll be semi-transparent. This is opaque, which is giving me the background selection, but I'm going to keep it on semi-transparent. Underneath here we have texture settings, and the tiling, it doesn't have it's not doing anything. I think because of the nature of the kind of image that it is. This is scaling, so I guess I can tile it. I don't know why I'd want to, but because I don't. So scaling, I can change the position of this. And so you can play around with that. This is not gonna be as helpful as when we put these on our the different kinds of shapes, different kinds of primitives. So apply light source. So that's applying the light source. If I cast a shadow on the ground, let's see if it gives us a shadow. Okay. Oh, it gives us a shadow now, which is awesome. So there we go. We have a shadow there. And so what I like about this is that you can use, let's take the light source off. You can now have a shadow cast. So if you're setting up a bunch of these for your backgrounds, for your background characters to have them as a placeholder, you also can have where the shadows are. This is for a panorama. We're not messing with any kind of panorama materials or images right now. I could do a separate video on that. So that's your plain images and your billboard images. They operate pretty much in the same way. And also this little wrench icon right here, you can click onto this, and there are some other settings right there. But I want to kind of move on and go through each one. So feel free to fast forward to any part that you want. I am making this a longer video to take my time so that everybody who's watching the video understands the parts that they need to understand. So now I want to take a look at the cube. Let's zoom in here a little bit and turn this. Why does it not turn? This is weird. Okay, where am I at? Okay, I got it. So now, here we go. Okay. So I have the cube here. And we got a few things that are there. You can select previous 3D object, display object list. That's that wrench icon that's right there on our little sub menu. You can center the object. Let's do that. You can place this on the ground, which is already placed on the ground. You can reset the model scale. And right here, you can save the 3D primitive to a material palette. That's going to be very important for us. So if we go over to the cube, and you're going to have to forgive me because sometimes I still fumble around here. Right over here it says cube, visible, not visible. And these other two, I can't really remember what they're doing. Oh yeah, it's taking off the movement gizmos of the cube itself, I guess, so you don't select it. I don't mess with switch camera. Angle, you can have presets to the cube if you want. And this is going to be very interesting. So number of divisions. So these are on your X, Y, and Z axis, or Z. And you can see this is 3 by 3. This number here is 3 by 3. Show wireframe is here. If you want, you can take that off and just have a regular primitive if you feel that's going to get in the way. We can increase this number. We can go 4 by 4 by 4. You can also use this slider to adjust that. So I adjusted that to 7, and it goes all the way up to 20, it appears. So 7, 7, and so a 7 by 7, that can be your grid. On the texture, we have our object color. We can change the color of the cube. All right, we can change the color of the cube. We can also put a texture on, but we're gonna work with textures a bit in a like later in the video, or later in this mini course it's turning into, right? You can change the color. The alpha, that's opaque and semi-transparent. I'm not quite sure what it's going to do with semi-transparent. I don't think it does very much. Oh, I guess it is. Okay. So this is a little semi-transparent. So if I went a little bit lighter, this might look like glass. Let's see. And let's also do this. Let's go back up here and take off the wireframe. Oh, not that one. Over here, let's take off the wireframe. So let's see what happens, because I am kind of curious. No, it's not. It's not going to. I thought it was making it a semi-transparent material, but it's not. So remove a threshold. I really don't know what that does. So alpha threshold. Oh, is that making it lighter? Oh wait, that's changing the opacity. So can we see if we can get a little bit of a see-through material? Okay, hold on. Wait. No, it's not. No, that's not actually doing anything. So, unfortunately. I guess I'm testing the limitations, right? Also, there is... I had to pause the video because I had a dog emergency. All right. So, yeah, I think I am... So we have this. We have apply light source as well. You probably want to do that. Cast shadows on the ground. You can see it is casting a shadow, which is very good. And I think that's about all. Now we have the other parts that we are going to get to. I want to go through all of the primitives. If you want to skip forward, as I said, please skip forward. So we have the sphere. The sphere next is, you can look over here and see all the settings are going to be the same. You can add textures. You can change the color. I don't want to start to repeat myself. Here's my dog. Don't want to repeat myself as I just did. Crazy, right? But you can increase the count here. So that's the X axis. That's the Y. You can also take off the wireframe. Now, if you want, there's this follow camera feature. If we... where is it? Because I'm trying to... I forget how to turn this off and on, but I don't think this is not giving me a very good example of it. So I'll just come back to it. This doesn't seem to be operational here. There's a lot of this stuff that that I would very much like for it to be way more like any other 3D program, but it's not. But you still can get a lot of stuff done. And so if we select any one of these, so I'm going to turn the camera and not the object. Over here, these large squares are allowing you to scale, right? This is going to allow you to scale. So we can flatten this out. We can make this longer into an oval. And this large ring, that's going to let you size your overall, the overall primitive, the overall object. So this is scaling. And if you want to scale in another direction, you can do that. And if you want to scale in the third direction. And so this X, Y, and Z or Z axes, it's going to be a little bit different from app to app, software to software. So I think this is Y, but if you guys work in Blender, you know that this is the Z axis. And over here, I think this is X, and then this would be Y. So I think this is Z, because Z is usually blue, or Z is usually blue. And X is red, Y is green. At least I think that's green. And this is blue. The arrows allow you to move. The arrows on the Gizmo, which it's normally called in most 3D programs. And so you can move this around with the arrows. And I think if you press in the middle, yeah, you can freely move it around. There's that circle that's right here in the middle, and everything lights up for you. Now, if you want to rotate, there are these little rings right here. So it's facing us this way, and it is tricky. So you can rotate this. You can rotate it the other way along this axis. Then you can also rotate it this way. So as with a lot of other 3D programs, you can scale, rotate, and move or transform. So when we're moving this, we're transforming it. Because I think, yeah, transform. So that is the things that you can do with your. I really just wanted to explain the rotating and the gizmo and how that works. We're going to go on to the prism and the pyramid because they're going to have some similarities to them. I have the prism now. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, why do you got to cover all this? So with the prism, let's take a look at the number of divisions. Now, we can go with the y-axis and say here are this many number of divisions. With the z up at the top here, that changes. But let's just go back to 1 right now. Actually, let's go up to 2. So this is 6. So if I crank this up, I can make this into 8. Yeah, I know. Ooh, super exciting. So what we can also do is we can duplicate this. So if I go under my wrench icon either here, and let's duplicate this. And now what I want to do is move this up. I'm going to scale this. Actually, what I'm going to do is take this and shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to move this up with the move gizmo so it's sitting on top. And then if I go to the very top, this camera's a little awkward. Okay, so now I got this top view. So I'm going to try to scale this uniformly like this. And I'll go back down. And all of a sudden, we can start to make some very interesting shapes here. And so we also, if we added this box here, and I clicked onto here, move this down, turn this around to the side, brought this in a bit. Let's move this over. Whoops, it's not what I was trying to do. Let's turn this way. And I'm going to go ahead and hit duplicate. Now, unfortunately, I cannot. There's just no easy way. I wish I could, as I think I said this before, I wish I could just join these together. Well, you can have yourself a castle. You can have a gatehouse, essentially. That's kind of what I'm making, but I guess I would more. So here's the other part of this. I can move this up a bit, like here, and I can kind of squish that down a little bit. It's moving the entire thing up. It's not what I was trying to do. So now I can kind of switch this around. I can duplicate this as many times as I want to. So I duplicate it again, I think. Yep. And I can also kind of squish this in like this. I'm going to duplicate it again. Now you can see we have all of these shapes here. The other thing you can do is rename these. So I could rename the prism to tower. Well, let's actually just call this. Sorry about that. I am terrible at typing. I could just select this over here. I can go with Tower 2. Told you I was bad. And up here, this is where the battlements. what is it? Merlons and oh, I can't think of it. I'm so ashamed. But you guys get the idea here. You can have this 3D, a very simplistic but pretty good 3D model here by just adjusting different objects. And if we wanted to, we can bring these in. And I'm going to move the camera over. Let's get this out of the way. I'm going to move this camera over a bit. And let's kind of bring that wall down. Castle walls were really, really thick, especially older castles. And we'll go back around here. And if you want to make everything uniformed, you can. We can select this and go back up here. So this is on the x-axis because it's, yep, on the red. So you can divide that up as many times as you want. And along the y, whoops, you can divide that up. You can change all of these to be very similar to each other. So now if we go around here and we have this shot of the castle, let's zoom in the camera a little bit. And then of course you can draw over that. So now that I have this here, what I really want to do next is to go back and add some textures. We can get to the pyramid there later, but let's go ahead and go down. Let's select one object and let's go to materials. And let's do this. Let's see if we could find something that's already there, because I didn't put in a lot of materials, but let's go with maybe stone. Okay. Well, let's go with brick. Well, because I don't have anything there. Wait a minute. That's texture. Wait a minute. Wait. Let's see. Additional materials? I'm kind of wondering what's going on here. Because I know they're over there. And I'm not going to... Oh. Texture? Well, you know what? Instead of me fumbling around here, let me go ahead and use my texture that I have. Let's go ahead and use this textures.com. I'm going to open this up. And as you can see here, it's a repeatable texture. All right. And so we can continue to do that. And I think this might have saved as a material. Okay, here's... Okay, I don't really know what is going on there. I don't know why I did that. I don't know what I did that did that. Let's go with brick. Now I can search for brick. Okay. I might not have had something set correctly. Okay, so I've added in a Clip Studio Paint texture instead of my own custom texture. And so you can see that it looks like it's see-through. And when that happens, then you want to take the alpha off of semi-transparent and go to opaque. So now we have that there. However, let's go in and I can actually save that. Now this texture might be a little bit too big. So if that is the case, let's zoom in here a little bit. Now, what I normally would have done, right over here at imports, I should have had the texture, but I don't. And I should probably just do an entirely separate thing on working with textures, which I will, if you want me to. Put it in the comments below, as they say. So let's go with the scaling. So let's bring down the scaling to make it look a little bit more. And you see it has keep aspect ratio. So now if I select this, I had that at 44, so I want to match that to about 44. And go here. Where texture? Okay. I lose my place a lot, so I think I was opening up the wrong thing here. So let's go in here, and we can adjust this and so on. But I think you get the idea that I'm just gonna, on my own part, hit pause and just apply the textures to everything. It's the same process. Okay, that took me a few minutes to do, but I have all of these right here. And now you can have these as your very own background. You have yourself a 3D model. Now, here's the interesting thing. I can now select one of these, and I suggest that you make a folder. I'm going to put it in my import folder, save the 3D as palette. So I will say brick wall. Now, there is not a really awesome way, and when you save these, just for those of you that may not know, I'm going to go into 3D. I'm going to go into imports. You could put a tag in there. Brick wall. I normally don't search through things on tags. Just hit OK. Let's save this one. The top of it does not look awesome, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. We'll call this brick tower, because we only got to save one of these. We don't have to save them all. And we'll go to imports, and you see it's updating right over here, right? And let's save this one. I want to take this one right here and let's save this. So this little button at the bottom, in case you weren't seeing, all the way at the end. And so I obviously did not select that. I'll select this one over here because it might be a little bit easier. So brick wall, let's call this small. And it's telling me to choose a location because I forgot to go in and choose a location. Imports, I'll hit OK. And let's see, let's also select this one. And we will call this brick medium. And we will go ahead and save this as well. Hit OK. And then I want to have this as the tower top. I don't know what I'm going to call it. We'll call this as brick. I don't necessarily want to call it the rampart or battlements, ramparts. Let's call it brick. I'll call it battlements, because it's easier for me to remember. And, oh wait, the wrong one. Click imports, hit OK. So what does that mean? That means that now if I zoom out here, I now can bring these in. And I have these building blocks that I could just use to change things out. If I want to bring in this other tower over here, and so yeah, so you can see that this can become we've saved a bunch of assets now. So there you go. I know I promised to go back to before we move on. It's not really as big of a deal at this point after we've done all that. So our pyramid shape, if we go over here, the biggest thing about the pyramid, because I said they're so similar, but I have to be a completionist. So you can obviously change the shape like this. And you're putting the different cuts in. In here, it doesn't look like it's doing anything until you actually turn underneath there. So I just wanted to show you that. So the pyramid, it's going to work pretty much the same way. Let's go in and add a plane. So I'm going to kind of close this out. And what I want to do is increase this relatively big. Let's just kind of keep this there. Texture. I'm going to choose, because I know I downloaded it, this grass texture. Now keep in mind that I'm showing you this because you can make your own pieces of artwork. I'm rotating this down, and so now I'm gonna have to move this into place. Okay, so now this is our texture on the ground here. And what I want to do is go down here. And by the way, these textures are 512 by 512. I didn't make these textures at all anything that was... I didn't want to make the textures, and this is repeating and everything, but I didn't want to make the textures, they didn't need to be 2K or 4K, not for our 2D purposes, right? So now I was just sitting on a little bit of a texture, just to show you that if you want to make grass or something like that, you absolutely can do that. I guess I didn't have that in the right place. If you want to make grass or something like that, you can do that. And now that you know how to adjust these, you should be all set to work in 3D. And let's just go ahead and add a panorama so I can get a very nice shot here. I think I have this forest here. I guess I'll hit OK. Because I don't know if the park, a castle in the middle of the park, but I got to have a somewhat interesting looking thumbnail. And if you clicked on it, it worked. I don't think it's quite downloaded yet. Let's see what happens here. Okay. Let's zoom out of the Let's zoom out of that. And I need to turn the panorama. And it looks weird, but it's okay. I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna roll with it. Oh, it's already saved. What am I doing? Okay, so hopefully that helped. Helped a lot with kind of demystifying a lot of the stuff that you see people do. And I urge you to, you can take any of these textures. I got these in a place called texture.com. And you can make your own textures. I would make them with Krita because unfortunately Clip Studio does not have a really easy way to do it. Not like Krita, you could pretty much just press a button and create a texture and it's great. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. If you learned something, please like, share, and subscribe. My tutorials, I will always make my tutorials in depth, and we will take our time so that you can actually learn, because it's important for me to learn. It's not as important for me to get likes and trying to look at my numbers and analytics, which I should be doing, but I want you to learn because I want you to create. All right, guys, have a great day.